Every once in a while, some young kid you've never heard of before pops up on your TV screen and you just know they're just something else. We've seen it in Marc, in Pedro, in Fabio, in Noric, in Valle. The list goes on. In the mid to late 90s, we've seen a Japanese wildcard make an appearance in the 250s 3 years in a row and wondered, when is this kid gonna get the full-time world championship seat? That kid was Daijiro Kato. What made him so special and why we never get to see what he's truly capable of, that's what we're gonna talk about in this video. Daijiro Kato was born on July the 4th in 1976 in Saitama, Japan. At just 3 years old, he got a pocket bike as a birthday present, since his father was a huge racing fan. He started competing on pocket bikes at 5, quickly showing his talent, and ultimately secured the Japanese pocket bike championship a total of 4 times. By age 11, he stepped up to mini bikes until he was 15. Eventually the bikes grew bigger with the Japanese, who never grew taller than 162 meters and 51 kilos. And by the age of 16, he started competing in local full-size road racing championships. In 1993, he became the all-Kyushu area champion in 3 classes by winning every single race he entered there. In 1994, he debuted in the 250cc class of the All Japan Road Racing Championship and also won his first race in his rookie season there. He kept improving and managed to finish on P5 in the Japanese Championship the following year. 1996 could be defined as his breakout year. Thanks to his continuous improvement in the Japanese Championship, he was given the chance to show the world his talent by obtaining a wildcard entry for the 250cc GP in 1996 in Japan. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Japanese riders in the Grand Prix of Japan in the 90s were just simply on a different level. Noric Abe won in the 500s, we had a complete Japanese lockout in the 125s, and in the 250s, Max Biaggi was the only non-Japanese rider on the podium. Actually, he was the only non-Japanese rider to win a race that day. And with over 13 seconds ahead of P2, Max Biaggi did it in a very dominant manner. Numata on P2 was pretty safe as well with the distance he kept, but behind him, the fight for the final podium place was decided by Daijiro Kato. He's shown that he knows the track better than any of the other guys on the field, overtaking in such a cheeky manner, securing him his first trophy in his first World Championship race. But the good year didn't end for Kato right there. He also further improved his performance in the Japanese Championship, finishing runner-up that year. For Kato, 1997 was almost like 1996, except this time he won it all. Almost. Again, as a wildcard, he competed in the Japanese GP, but this time he won in such a strategic and well-calculated manner, which is a very rare sight in the smaller classes. He was riding on P4 for a while and then picked up one rider after another, and into the last corner out of the Casio triangle, he moved up to P1 and picked up the victory. And in the Japanese Championship, he finally won the series and was crowned the 250cc Japanese champion. Additionally, he also competed in the 8 Hours of Suzuka and finished 9th. Actually, he also competed there in 1994 and 1995, and this was his 3rd outing at the 8 Hours of Suzuka. At this point, you'd think that the guy who won the, at the time, most competitive national championship, as well as a GP as a wildcard, would surely get a world championship contract for the following year. But you're wrong. In 1998, he stayed in the Japanese championship as a full-time rider. But we got to see him in the Grand Prix of Japan once again. Not just did he get the pole position, he also burned the fastest race lap into the asphalt, and by round 3, he crossed the line on every lap on P1. He celebrated his 2nd Grand Prix win with this comically large bow tie, and to this day this image is just legendary. Kato had a good sense of humor. One, for his bow tie celebration, but also he had a website back then, which is still up today, and all the old pages are still archived, and man, it's such a trip to go through all of the pages there. He still didn't get a seat on the World Championship for 99, therefore competed another year in the Japanese Championship. Kato also didn't get a wildcard for Suzuka this year, as they raced in Motegi, and there he did get the wildcard for the Japanese GP. This time, however, he did not win the race, he finished in 5th. Still impressive for a wildcard. And for the new millennium, he finally got his full-time World Championship seat, as he was offered a place at the Honda Gresini team in the 250s. Once Daijiro Kato made his full-time debut in the 250s, it seemed like he could deliver a generational rookie season. He landed the first 4 races of the season on the podium, again winning the Grand Prix of Japan in Suzuka. By mid-season he achieved rather humbling results, but he never finished outside of the top 10 the entire year. Not even a single DNF. As a rookie, it doesn't matter what class we're talking about at this point, it's just massively impressive. Also keep in mind that basically this 24-year-old didn't know any other tracks outside of Japan at this point. So while he was getting to know new racetracks, his rivals were competing on home turf. But it wasn't all without success during the height of the summer in 2000, as Honda set the generational talent on their newly generational superbike to compete at the 8 Hours of Suzuka. Daijiro Kato and Toru Ukawa managed to take Japan's most prized trophy on board the Honda RC51. I personally think that the RC51 is fascinating in its creation and legacy. If you want to see a video where I'll go into the story of that bike, leave a like so I know that you want to see it. And subscribe while you're at it so you won't miss it. By the last quarter of the season, Kato returned back to the form fans expected from him, and while mathematically the Rookie World Championship was still possible, it was unrealistic. Nonetheless, he finished 4 of the last 5 races on the calendar on the podium, winning an astonishing amount of 3 of them. He even redeemed himself in Motegi, as they raced in Japan twice, for one obviously as the Grand Prix of Japan in Suzuka, but the race in Motegi was titled Pacific Grand Prix. He finished the last race of the season in Phillip Island on P3, which was also the place on which he landed in the final standings of this year's campaign. But the following year, and I need to make this very clear, was the year in which we finally got to experience the complete excellence that we've only seen in Suzuka the previous years. In 2001, we've witnessed the most historic masterclass ever in the 250cc class. We've seen records being broken and set, and those records have yet to be broken, even in the modern day where the 250cc class was turned into Moto2. Not just did he win 11 out of 16 races that year, something that has never been achieved in the 250s or Moto2, even though there are so many races per year nowadays. He won with an average lead of 7.7 seconds per win. Average. And there were some really close finishes like the one in South Africa. It feels needless to say, but that gifted him the 250cc World Championship title in 2001. And for 2002, it was announced that Kato was going to move to the Premier class of MotoGP. The MotoGP season of 2002 was already one of the most historic ones before it even started. The Premier class of Grand Prix racing saw the biggest change in its regulations since its birth in 1949. The class of the 500s was renamed to simply MotoGP, and the 500s themselves were on the verge of extinction. But they weren't dead yet. 2002 was the transitional year. Factory teams and riders competed with all new 990cc 4-stroke machines, whilst their satellite counterparts were on the 500s of the previous year. Long story short, if you were on a 500, it was close to impossible for you to be competitive. If a satellite rider had proven their worth, they would get one of the new 4-stroke bikes for the last few races of the season. There were some exceptions to this, like Suzuki or Proton, but this was generally speaking the way for most riders. Since Daijiro Kato was promoted to the MotoGP grid by a satellite team Gresini Honda, he also started the season on board 500. In race 2 of the season, the rookie already could get on P4 after only qualifying in 14th place. And in the third round of the championship in Jerez, he got his first podium. Kato landed in 2nd place behind Valentino Rossi and in front of Honda factory rider Toru Ukawa. That P2 was a statement, as he was not just a rookie in his 3rd MotoGP race, but also landed ahead of a superior 4-stroke. The following DNFs and midfield results showed that he was in fact just human and still had a thing or two to learn. But by round 9 of the championship, Kato did get the new 4-stroke Honda. While he couldn't finish his first race on the 990cc machine, since he was taken out at the Sachsenring, he rewarded Honda and himself with another P2 the following race. Kato struggled to score any points the following 2 races due to the tricky conditions, which he just didn't have the experience for yet. In his 2nd home race in Motegi, Kato managed to land on pole position, then continued to fight for the win ahead of Rossi, with Alex Barros, but it ended in heartbreak as his Honda stopped working and he had to retire the race. Kato finished the last 3 races of the season in the top 5, while just missing out on a podium in Phillip Island. Daijiro Kato finished his first season in MotoGP as the Rookie of the Year on P7. Fans, critics and journalists knew that if Kato were to start the season on competitive machinery and having the experience of his rookie year under his belt, he would win a few races and even be a championship contender. And in hindsight, it's also pretty clear that he would have become Honda's main rider, with Ukawa retiring in 04 and Rossi making the switch to Yamaha. So the 03 season was underway and its first race was the Grand Prix of Japan on Kato's favorite track, Suzuka. When the cameras of the broadcast went through all the riders on the field, it eventually came to Kato. But we didn't know at that point that this was the last time we, and for that matter his family as well, would ever see the face of Daijiro Kato alive and well. Just as the riders ahead of him crossed the line to finish lap 3 of the race, Kato lost control going into the Casio triangle. He crashed into the foam and tire barrier, flying through the air and eventually landing back on the racetrack. The race was not stopped. There were no red flags. He was immediately rushed to the hospital for emergency treatment, but after laying in a coma for 2 weeks, his body succumbed to his injuries. At the age of 26, Daijiro Kato left behind his wife Makiko as well as 2 children. In November of 03, a 20-page crash report that in-depth analyzed the crash and all parts involved, like the track bike, data, gear, injuries and so on, was made public. If you want to learn in detail about how this crash occurred, I'll have the full 20-page accident report in the video description, but I'll just give you the most important facts right here. When braking on the approach to the chicane on the first lap and the second lap, Kato maintained an extremely high rear wheel slip ratio of as much as 35%. On the third lap, however, the ratio climbed to 38%. A sharp reduction in speed reduced rear tire ground contact and caused the vehicle to exhibit unstable behavior. Since the bike was unsettled, Kato was unable to stabilize it using the rear brake as he couldn't reach it. His bike then left the asphalt at 170 km per hour, which is 106 miles per hour, and the bike crashed into the barrier at 150 km per hour, which is 94 miles per hour. Upon impact, he broke his neck and his body, once it landed on the ground, slid over the grass onto the racetrack. His body came to a stop 33 meters, which is 36 yards, away from the point of impact. Again, the entire report is in the video description. I don't want to show any images here, or any non-censored images, but there are also amateur videos showing the crash. Well, they are very low quality, so you can't really see much, but technically, if you were interested, you could, with a very simple internet search, find Kato's fatal crash on the internet, on YouTube and the MotoGP video pass. I usually don't like to look at stuff like that, but for research purposes I did. It just felt so uneasy. It's just 20 seconds or something, but it just doesn't sit right with me, I don't know. And just one little side note, the 33 meters seemed so far, especially from what you can see on camera. But I checked it in true-to-scale video games such as Ride 5 or Rims Racing, and I was surprised at how small TV cameras made that distance look, because it did seem accurate. In 2004, MotoGP published this tribute book that covers parts of Kato's childhood, motorcycle career, and a ton of anecdotes by various people from his past, all the way from MotoGP riders, family members, childhood friends. If you ever feel like becoming emotional while reading and you want to discover the life of this MotoGP legend, you should look into it. Though you can't really buy it new anymore, so I guess eBay is your best friend in that case. MotoGP never returned to racing at Suzuka, and Kato's racing number 74 was retired, meaning no one else will ever be able to use that number ever again. After Daijiro's death, his teammate Zete Gibernau won the race in South Africa wearing Kato's number on his leathers, dedicating this win to the Japanese. The winners of the 8 Hours of Suzuka in 2003 also dedicated their win to their friend holding up a framed picture of Kato while on the podium. As Daijiro Kato became a bigger and bigger star in Japan, as well as having kids himself, he did put increased emphasis on passing on the passion and also opening the doors for a new generation, just like his father did with him. So in March of 2003, he started the Daijiro Cup, which, in honor of him, still holds that name. If you want to learn about another Japanese legend that is no longer with us, you can click the video up here and learn about Noric Abe. Down below is a video of Suzuki and why all of their titles just felt different. And whatever is up here is what YouTube decided to pick for you. Thank you for watching, and until next time. Bye bye.